Hello everyone, Andy here, and here's what you can look forward to in today's episode.
In part 2 of today's episode, me and Sam continue to rank our NFL quarterbacks from 32 to 1. Me and Sam disagree over one NFL quarterback.
Yeah, no way. I disagree entirely with that.
No, listen to this.
Andy hates the use by Sam of one particular NFL stat.
I'm really sorry to damn your parade here, but I hate the EPA stat.
And one of Andy's selections shocks Sam.
Whoa, no.
Hope you guys enjoy.
My number 12 is someone who's already been mentioned, Jordan Love. Up by 2 from the year before for me. I like Love a lot. I think he's really good. I think, it wasn't quite the year he had in 2023, but I think, he was still good. He wasn't bad. I think the kind of receivers he's got, a young core there with Wicks and Jaden Reed and Josh Jacobs as well to hand the ball off to. It's a good young team with a good coaching, and I think that if he can make Will Levis, what the hell's his name? Malik Willis. If he can make Malik Willis look good, then I think you've got a good coach there to learn from. So I think Jordan Love for me is good. I don't think he'll ever be. I don't think he'll be a third straight Hall of Famer. I don't think he'll get into the Rodgers or Favre levels, but I think he could be in that sort of Hall of Very Good, which I think Julian Edelman.
I can see him playing for the Packers for 10 years.
I think he could retire there easily.
Yeah,
I think he'll be sort of fall into that category which Julian Edelman is supposed to be for in being the Hall of Very Good. I think, Love. Good. I think took a little bit down. As it before, took a downturn from last year, but I think the future's bright with him. And then me, number 11 is a guy that I absolutely love, in Baker Mayfield. I think obviously the playoff game last year wasn't great from Baker Mayfield or the team in general. But I love Baker Mayfield. I think Baker Mayfield is one of the great stories of the last few years in the NFL. I really do. I think that how he's overcome the sort of the backlash and sort of the negative plays, and he sort of was doubted by everyone. The Buccaneers even did that. They gave him $4 million on a 1-year contract, expecting him to be a stopgap, and now he's there for the future. And I think I love watching Baker Mayfield play so much, and I think I would love to put him higher. I really would, but I just think that I'm going purely. I know this is not everything, but I'm going purely by these. Everyone else on this list has done more in the playoffs. That's literally it. I think I love his fight spirit, but I think he's got a pretty poor playoff record. He's won 2 games with the Browns in the playoffs. He did lose one, but then lost to the Lions in the divisional round last year. Then 2 years ago, I think actually my next guy up could easily be argued. Actually, he's had just as bad a record, but he's won more regular season games. So for me, Baker Mayfield is in the number 11, 6 places up from the year before.
Right, my number 12 is Tua. Again, from here, I just love all these quarterbacks. I love watching Tua. Last year he was actually really good. Yeah, sadly for him, and no one's going to remember that because of obviously the year
no way. I disagree entirely with that.
No, listen to this. Right. So obviously, the start of the year, week 2, the concussion against the Bills, and then end of the year, the hip injury. Right, but that period in between, so that period after returning from the concussion, he was really good. Only Jared Goff had a better success rate across the entire NFL last season than Tua. And he proved to me that he could create on his own because he had his best ever season in terms of EPA per play. He was 4th in EPA per play behind Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, and Jared Goff. It was without a run game. Again, the Dolphins, this whole Dolphins offense, it needs a run game to operate, and there's no run game whatsoever. I think in most run game metrics, the Dolphins are between 28th and 32nd last year. That's how bad the Dolphins run game was last year. Because of that, unfortunately, Tua had to try and create on his own. And again, you had Waddle injured, Tyreek injured. In his numerically, in terms of the way he puts a team on his back, and the way he converted third downs, and the way he converted, at least 5. So success rate is, I think it is at least 60%. It's at least 40% of the yards on first down, 60% of the yards on second down, and then third down and fourth down conversions again. And the only person that was better than Tua in those scenarios last year was Jared Goff. That's so in key scenarios like third, fourth down, Tua was on the money last year, which again proved to me that he can put a team on his back and do that. But people aren't going to remember that because all people are going to remember are the concussions and the hip injury. If you actually look at the numbers in that level between week 8 when he came back from the Cardinals game and then going towards the end to the Niners game, he was playing some of the best football of his career. Again, every year he ticks a box for me that he'll prove me wrong, or the only thing that now he hasn't done is can he stay healthy, and that's why he's so low for me. But other than that, because of the way he played last year with his probably worst situation since Brian Flores, and he still put up high numbers. And in the metrics that I like to look at, again, you're looking at Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson, Jared Goff, only the 4 better people in EPA per play last year than Tua Tagovailoa. Yeah, for me, I feel like he's very underrated.
I'm really sorry to down your parade here, but I hate the EPA stat. I hate the EPA stat. It's like XG. I hate XG as well. It's like I don't care what he's expected to do. I want what he actually does. And for me,
but it's adding. It's what it's over expected. So it's what they're adding to the team. So for example, someone like Geno Smith, he adds nothing to a team, so his EPA is 0.01. Same with Sam Darnold, his EPA is 0.05 per play, right? He's not in that group. He's in the group. He had a higher EPA than Mahomes last year. He had a higher, again, and the people who added the most to their team last year, Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson, they added the most to the team last year. No, they're the 2 MVP candidates. Like it for me, it's my favorite number in looking at quarterback success because it shows you how they're leading their team.
But how are you judging what they're expecting? Because I look at I don't know. How are you measuring EPA? That I've never actually delved into this stat too much.
It's one of those. It's subjective. XG. But again, I love XG as well, and I love numbers. But if you look at the list, so for example, my list is very other than Tua and Purdy, who are a bit elevated on EPA. Everyone else very high up on very high up on the list. And you look at the bottom of the list, you're looking at Dak Prescott, Jameis Winston, Daniel Jones, Drake May, Russell Wilson, Joe Flacco, Aiden O'Connell, Mike Jones, Mason Rudolph, Kirk Cousins. So it is how the league works out.
Interesting. Well, I've never really looked into it. I may have to look into it now, but I just feel like the fact that subjective doesn't really grind my gear. What's the word? Not grind my gears. It doesn't really get my juices flowing enough. But either way, we move on to before we go into our top 10, you've got one more 11 to go. Mm-hmm. Now, it's very warm in this flat, so I'm going to quickly turn my fan on in my room whilst you give me your number 11.
Okay, so my number 11 is CJ Stroud. Again, just probably a bit harsh missing out in the top 10, but again, so many quarterbacks had exceptional seasons last year. When Stroud was about what it was the year before, it wasn't the league that we'd expected with how much money Houston invested on their team. If it wasn't for their defense, their team would have been a mess last year with all the offensive injuries they had, and then the regression of their offensive line going from one of the best in the league to one of the worst offensive lines in the league. He was decent. He was decent. His numbers were in the same ballpark as the year before. He had a few more interceptions, but then he got lucky in his rookie year. So again, it's probably about the same as it was. He's a good arm. He's accurate. He can bring a team back from behind as well. He's tall. There's not much more that you can ask from a quarterback. It's just, for me, probably 10 other quarterbacks are either more talented than Stroud or had better seasons last year than Stroud, which is why he's just outside my top 10.
That is interesting because I've got Stroud in my top 10, and I think that I love the fact he did all of this without, let's see what he can do. I know this is actually a thing that gets been on for Tua with, and I'm basically right now about to say what would really sort of be hypocritical when it comes to my views on Tua, but I think if Stroud had a good line, I think the Texans could be even better, and I think they had a lot of injuries last year, lost Diggs, lost Nico Collins to injury. I still think the fact that he had
to me, they're very similar quarterbacks. I think for me, Stroud's just a taller Tua. That's pretty much maybe a little bit stronger. But if you look at the accuracy is their biggest selling point. The anticipation is their biggest selling point. It's both of them. They're very similar quarterbacks. But I feel like Stroud probably is the better quarterback, and he obviously is the one that can stay healthy. But for me, they are very, very similar quarterbacks.
and he has what 2 playoff wins.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
But again, he's not had to deal with the Bills and it's like if the Dolphins were in the AFC South, that you could make how many wins they've had. That was it 4 straight 10-win seasons before last year. You could make an argument the Dolphins could have won the AFC South 4 times. With how many games they. So I think it very much is if the Texans were in the AFC East, would they have a playoff win? Probably not. I think that's.
I mean, my issue as well. I'm going back to 2 again here, but apart from 2 games against Bills, he's been pretty bad in all of them. I mean, he won a game in Miami, did that game in the snow, Week 14 in 2022, where he did well, but a lot of the big games, he just doesn't. It's not even just the Bills.
But it's not just him. Tyreek Hill doesn't turn up in the big games.
Yeah,
it's like I agree. Yeah, it does frustrate me, but it's not just a him problem. It's a philosophy problem. That's the way I see it.
Yeah. I think you could be right. I think you could be right. But yeah, we'll wait and see whether he can stay healthy to even be talked about in these big games.
Exactly.
Number 10 for me is a guy that I think, despite his stats and his numbers, actually also, I think personally, does seem to crumble in the playoffs. Jared Goff. Think about, I think Jared Goff has been amazing in the regular season last year, especially, 15 wins for the Lions. But the reason why I'm having him higher is because, think about the 2023 season, I think it was, where he got to the championship game. That was good, right? That was good. But you think about his time with the Rams, he was not the reason why they made the Super Bowl. I think they
got lucky with a PI call, didn't they?
Yeah, well, that as well.
It's like
I don't think he was the reason why they won these playoff games. And then the Lions had 1 playoff game in 2024, and they were pretty bad. I think as well the defense was a problem. I just think that Jared Goff has had a really good time at Detroit, and I think you could easily have him higher. I wouldn't be against swapping him for maybe my number 7 or number 8. But I just feel like, I don't know. I think it goes down to that whole thing of, he's got everything around him. You've got 2 amazing running backs. You've got a good line. You've got good receivers. I think you put, 98% of these quarterbacks ahead of him. I've got on my list. You put him in a situation where there's bad. I mean, Joe Burrow has, made the Super Bowl with the most sacked quarterback in playoff history. He overcame some obstacles there, and I think a lot of the quarterbacks would still thrive despite, if they didn't have a good line, no good weapons.
But let's see this year, because the Lions' offensive line is considerably weaker than it was previously.
I do.
Lost Ben Johnson, so we'll see this year. I feel like he is slightly better than. I've got him at 9, but again, so last year was the best year of his career. I'd say yes, just slightly better than when he got to Super Bowl with the Rams that year. And again, because he actually created a lot of plays on his own, which I didn't think Jared Goff would do. But if you actually look at it, outside of the run game, a lot of the time, Goff, when required needs to make a play, again, 3rd down, he was brilliant on 3rd down. Again, the success rate, the best in the league. So that last season. And again, it's one of those things where with the reputation that Jared Goff had when Sean McVay wanted to get rid of him, you didn't think that Jared Goff would be that guy. But last year he was that guy. So we'll see how he is going into a situation where Frank Ragnow retired. They've lost guys on the offense line as well as Ragnow. We'll see how good they are up front, and then we'll see what the offense can do without Ben Johnson. But for me, I feel like Jared Goff again is one of those where he is playing at a very high level. My number 10, so I'll go back to my number 10. My number 10 is Baker Mayfield, as you mentioned, career year last year, awesome. He's earned it as well. Last year his accuracy improved tenfold. He threw a career high 43 touchdowns, and he used his legs so well. Like he was so good at leaving the pocket and gaining extra yards. The career high 378 rushing yards, over 200 rushing yards more than he has in any other previous season. So that's how well Baker did at Run Football last year. He was also PFF's 6th highest graded quarterback. He had a grade of 85.9, and in terms of EPA per play, he was also 6th, just behind Tua and Brock Purdy, and just ahead of Jaden Daniels. He was a driving force of the Bucs offense again, especially when you had weapons going in and out. There were so many injuries on the weapons last year. And again, the Bucs offensive line isn't it's okay, it's middle of the road, but again, Baker was running around for his life a lot of it. And again, his pass EPA went up by about 70 points. So again, across the season, that's probably 2-3 points a game that Baker has added just by the way he ran the football and stuff, etc. And again, the only people who were better than him at that were Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Jared Goff, too, and Brock Purdy. For me, Baker, outstanding season. He's earned everything he's got, and he is one of my favorite quarterbacks to watch. So that's my number 10 and 9, Baker Mayfield, Jared Goff.
Yeah, that is fair. Number 9 for me is a guy that has gone up by 19 places from a year before, and that is Jaden Daniels. Now, Daniels, I feel like we need to basically hold our horses because he had one good year. A bit like Stroud last year.
Again, I think I had Stroud very high last year, and I've done the same with Jaden Daniels.
I mean, looking at 2024, I had Stroud 5th in my rankings last year, and I think you had him 6th. And I think I learned my lesson because I think we all need to. It's been a great year, don't get it wrong, but we've seen a lot of quarterbacks have good first years. I mean, the Washington know this more than anyone else is RG3. I mean, they know exactly what it's like for a quarterback to have a good year. So I think we all need to hold our horses. A bit like Stroud last year, we learned our lesson from that. So I think it is just 1 year. It's a smaller sample size. I think, obviously judging by his first season, if he plays like that every year, he'll be a top 5 quarterback within the next couple of years. But
within a year,
he's had one good year.
His numbers, the greatest ever rookie season, I think, in terms of numbers. He again, if you just look, I love numbers, but if you just look at the numbers, the way he was so careful with the football as a rookie, but then he was also pushing the ball downfield. He was the plays he was making. If you add the 900 rushing yards and all the rushing touchdowns to what he did, it's crazy. Like PFF, normally quite harsh on rookies, for example, with their grading. He was the 4th best quarterback last year. 4th as a rookie. It's insane. And again, EPA he was 7th. It's just crazy. The way he was used. He reminded me is like a hybrid of Cam Newton and Patrick Mahomes. That's kind of where I see. That's where I see it. The red zone is very Cam Newton, very Josh Allen, but the way he moves around, makes plays is very, very Patrick Mahomes, and that's for me is like a perfect quarterback. That's exactly what I'm looking for, and I've got him quite high. For me, he was brilliant. But I think that's where, if you look at the numbers, his numbers are quite better than Stroud, and he's got quite a few elite traits. Where I'm like Stroud again, like Purdy, like Tua, are very good at a lot of things, but isn't very elite. And he's not very he's not got the cannon of an arm. He's not got the legs. Well, Daniel's got both, for example.
Yeah, he was an amazing rookie year, and obviously he gave it to the Lions in the divisional round, one of the shock results in recent years. And obviously they ultimately lost, but he gave a good account himself in that game against the Eagles. Now to your number, back to my number 8. We'll go for me first. The guy I've already mentioned before, CJ Stroud, going down from 3 from the year before. I did initially have him 7th, but in the last sort of day or two, I bumped him down to number 8. For me, a bit of a down year. But I'm seeing enough there that I'm happy with. I just think, he took a little bit of a downturn in 2024, so therefore I'll put him a little bit further down in my rankings. But for you, Sam, who's your number 8?
My number 8 is Jalen Hurts. He's a strange one. Again, as a passer, he'd probably be about 20th on this list, if we're being honest. But of course, his running ability is just brilliant. He's a nice deep ball, and more than anything, and the reason why he's here is because he adds so much to his team, and he's a winner in that aspect. I feel like if you on the eyes when he's just throwing the football, I feel like there are very many quarterbacks who are better than him. He, for example, PFF 23rd best passing grade, 14th best pass EPA. For me, he's very middle of the road as a passing quarterback. But then, as in 2022, his playoff performances were just elevated. He stepped up for the moment and played very well. And again, for me, the way he in a pressure situation, he can elevate, he can use his legs, and that. I think he's a very, very good playoff quarterback. And again, very, very few quarterbacks that I trust more than Jalen Hurts in the playoffs, because I feel like he's a winner. He's just he's got that dog in him, which I feel like a lot of quarterbacks don't really have. They're very good, but I feel like in the moment he can just switch it on. A bit like I was saying about Cam Ward earlier on. I feel like he's just got that. He's just got that, and obviously he's learned that. He's been through a lot in his career, and he's developed that. As a Russian quarterback, again, he's top 3-4 Russian quarterback in the NFL. Some may even argue he's the best in the NFL. So again, that's as a passer, again, I'm not that big of a fan, and the numbers aren't really there either. But deep ball's great. Again, accuracy across the middle is not great, but his deep ball's great. And again, in the playoffs and big moments, you've got that deep ball, you've got the legs, you can make plays. That's why for me, I personally would have had him lower, but because of what he is and why he's so good at that, he's number 8 for me.
Yeah, I've got him high. I've got him 5th. I mean, I think about if your team in general, what do you want from a quarterback more? A guy like can win you games, and I think he's done that in the playoffs. You think about that game against the Chiefs in Super Bowl 59. That one play, I think it was the AJ Brown or Devonta Smith, where literally it basically turned the game from being close to being a double-digit lead. And I feel like the tush push probably exaggerates his stats a little bit, but I think he is a better passer than people give him credit for. And I do feel like, when it comes to the big moments, I mean, looking at his career, I mean, he's made 2 Super Bowls, and then the other one, not a great season, but still made the playoffs as a wild card.
With him, I know exactly what I mean, but with him in a bad situation with limited accuracy, I worry about him as a pocket passer. That's my only thing of Hurts. So I feel like he's only had the Eagles' offensive line. He's only had a very well run team by Howie Roseman. I just feel like if he was in any other situation, I feel like he'd be decent, but I do feel like he'd be about 15th in the NFL, if I'm being honest.
Well, I do feel like you can say that for a lot of quarterbacks. I mean, even Mahomes, I'm sure you got as well as me him high up, and give him a bad O-line in 2 Super Bowls, and look what happened. He looked
exactly. Well, the last couple of years, Mahomes has been about 10th in the NFL in terms of numbers. And because the offense has been so limited, because they've not been able to get what they used to. But again, he's been middle of the road. So you are right there. But I just felt like he's not got the Mahomes, level of Mahomes. I think, but I agree.
I mean, I think the gap between 4th and 5th is pretty big. I
agree. Yeah,
I think they're like, I think Hurts in my 6th and 7th, which are 6th Herbert, Matt Stafford 7th. I do feel like you got those 3. Maybe you could put Stroud and Daniels in that thing. You got the other quarterbacks there, and then you got there. I think you got the 4. I think, if I'm honest, I think all 4 quarterbacks I've got in my top 4. I'm sure you got the same as me. You can have them in any order, and I would not contest at all. I think whether it's
this year it was a lot harder to do it than previous years. I thought. Arranging the top 4 for me was really hard this year.
Yeah, we'll get onto that later on, but I still think I found it. I found the top 2 I found easier to do than my 3rd and 4th personally, but I will get onto that later on. And Herbert 6th, Matt Stafford 7th. Now Herbert, I was thinking, does he really want 6th? Because last year barely any picks, but and then you're not the biggest fan of Herbert, but I do think that. Why have I got him 6th? Because at the end of the day, you had barely any picks, but that was because it was a run-heavy offense. But I still think he's a great quarterback, and I still think
last year was probably his best year.
But then in the playoff game, that game was awful.
I know, and again, it's the biggest. And this is my thing with Justin Herbert, right? Again, he is the stereotypical quarterback. He's got everything that you want for a quarterback. He's got the arm, he's got the accuracy, he's got the legs, he's got the height, he's got literally everything you want in a quarterback. But why has he not done more with the teams he's had? If you and this is you look at the weapons he's had. If you look at the offensive line he's had the last couple of years, right? Why has he not done more with that? Is there chances to win playoff games? Is there chances? This year just gone, there were many chances to win in the fourth quarter, and that just didn't materialize. And again, the playoffs weren't great. And he's good, but in terms of, I can't put him with all the other guys because he's only been in top 5 QB in terms of EPA with the other guys like Allen Jackson, Mahomes, Burrow. He's only been with them once his whole career. In terms of adding more to his team, he's not done that. And before this year, where he was 9th, he's been in around the mid-teens. All the other years, and he's had a decent offensive line. He's had weapons. He's, for example, Justin. Talk about Kyler Murray earlier on. I thought Justin Herbert's had better weapons than Kyler Murray has his career. If we're being honest.
Yeah.
But Kyler Murray has, and I feel like they're in very similar spots. But Herbert has more than Kyler Murray does, which is why Herbert for me is where he is. But I'm just waiting, and I can't wait. I said it every year. I can't wait to be proved wrong. I really can't. It's like I want him to succeed because I feel like when he does succeed and when he does win a Super Bowl, he would have earned it because of how well he's played. But he's just not. The final bit is missing for me of Herbert.
Yeah, I agree. And even this year, you can't even blame this year on bad coaching because you can blame on Anthony Lynn or Brandon Staley before, but Jim Harbaugh's a good head coach, and the fact that he had more picks in one game than the entire of the regular season when it came to game against the Texans in the playoff game, it is concerning.
This way, yeah. Go on. It's like how Jaden Daniels was in moments this year, in big moments. That's what we've been waiting for Justin Herbert to do in the first 5 years of his career, and he's not done it. And Jaden Daniels and Stroud have done it in their first 2 seasons with Daniels' case worse roster than Herbert's ever had. And that's exactly where we're at. It's like we're waiting for him to have a Jaden Daniels moment, lead your team to an NFC Championship game where the talent there shouldn't be there. It's like Burrow, same thing. Like Zach Taylor had no business being an AFC Championship or Super Bowl coach, no business. But Joe Burrow got him there because of his magic.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, maybe I should put Stafford 6th because Stafford has been good in the playoffs. I know they lost to the Eagles this year, but they.
I've done the same as you. I've got Stafford 7, Herbert 6.
Stafford only had 8 picks this season. He's still good, and I think this year he'll be good again.
And again, the only reason why his numbers are worse this year than normal is because the Rams were terrible at the start of the year. When they're like 1-7 or something at the start of the year, the Rams had a terrible start, and then after their bye week, they kicked on, and everyone was picking them as a Super Bowl dark horse after being like a 1-2 win team at the start of the season before their bye week. It was like it's only when it clicked and everything clicked, and Stafford was one of the best quarterbacks down the stretch again when the Rams kicked on. Like that second half of the year showed me that even at 37, Stafford's still so good. And
also looking at his numbers from last season, in terms of going on from next season, he threw one pick in the loss from us against us in November the 12th. After that game, there was 8 regular season games left, 2 playoff games he played. In that time, he had a total 1 pick. And that was in a game against the Jets, 2 weeks left to go. Didn't throw a single pick in the postseason. He had a lot of games where it was both playoff games with 2 touchdowns, 0 picks. He had 2 of his last 5 regular season games, 2 touchdowns, 0 picks. I think personally that for me, Stafford is definitely reaching the end of his career. And I think I'm going to change it from Stafford 7th to 6th. I think I'm going to change it around because I just feel like I'm going to think about it now. I think over a 10-year career, who do you want more? I'd have Herbert, of course, because of the age. But give me a one-off game in a big moment in the playoff game, which is why I've got Goff so low down. I should probably stick to that same method, same as Tua. Herbert shouldn't be 6th, so I'm going to put him 7th because I think Stafford I would trust a lot more in a big game than.
I'm gonna pick. I'm gonna stick with. Well, I'm gonna go Hurts, Stafford, Herbert. I'm gonna stick with where I'm at. And then spoiler alert, Jane Daniels is at 5 for me. So
Right.
that's leading into my. Well, we talk about Daniels a lot, which is why, we won't really speak about him. But I just feel like Herbert. I have the hope that Herbert can do it. I'm just waiting for him to do it. And again, with the lower downs, I've projected with Williams, with May, like where I thought they'd be, but maybe at the end of this year, for example. Yes, that's why I've done that. And then with Jane Daniels, like last year, look again, leading Washington to their first NFC Championship game since 1992. Again, 7th highest EPA per drop back across the NFL, which is unheard of as a rookie, elevating that much right away. PFF's 5th highest graded quarterback, 4th best passer. And again, he had a turnover worthy play percentage of just 1.7%. Only Lamar Jackson was more careful with the football than Jane Daniels was as a rookie. It's insane. On the ground, he was excellent too. 891 yards, 6 yards per attempt, 6 touchdowns. Again, we said earlier, I went really high with Stroud, last year, and I had to put him down a bit this year. Because Daniels is so talented, I can't see it that big of a drop. I just feel like his tools are so special, and the Commanders are getting better. I can see him winning a Super Bowl in the next 2-3 years. I really can.
Really? See,
Yeah.
I think there's one thing that's going to let him down, and I'm going to give you a clue here. 28-3. I think Dan Quinn will be the reason why I don't win a Super Bowl.
Really? No, I think Dan Quinn's a great coach. I
think he's good, but I think we see a lot of good coaches. But, McDermott hasn't won a Super Bowl.
Or maybe reaching a Super Bowl then. Like, I can see them in a Super Bowl, absolutely. Absolutely.
Especially this year. You think about the Lions have lost coordinators. No one knows how they're going to do. The Niners obviously taking downturn. The Eagles, Barkley's on the front cover. They've lost coordinators. Sorry, the front cover of Madden. They've lost coordinators. The OC is gone. And I think you think about the rest of the team. I think the Rams will be there. Will be up in with a shout. I don't think the Packers, Bears, or Vikings have enough to make a Super Bowl. I think the NFC South. I think no one's going to win a playoff game in that division. So I think this year could be the year. I think certainly to win a division. I think no one's gone back to back in that division for so long. Yeah, I think the Eagles will be the favourites, but I do feel like the Commanders and the Rams certainly will be ones. I think Daniels could certainly make one, and you never know. Whoever they get in the Super Bowl on a one-off game, and they've gone out and got Deebo Samuel. They've gone out and got offensive line help. So I forget who they bought now in the off-season. That was literally talked about today on a podcast. Oh my God! Anyway, what's his name? The guy with the bong, Dolphins player, Laramie Tunsil.
Tunsil.
Yeah, I think they get certainly going through their window.
They were aggressive. They basically did what Houston did last year in their roster building.
Yeah, exactly the same thing. So for me, that is fair enough. Now we're into our top 4, which is very obvious. Top 4 in alphabetical order. We've got Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, and Patrick Mahomes. Now, it's a clear 4. As I said before, I think these 4 are light and day above the rest. And between these 4. One's won 3 Super Bowls, one's made a Super Bowl, and then the other 2 have they've won 2. They've won all between them the last 3 MVPs. So really, you can put them in any order. Sam, we'll go for you first. Who have you got at 4th?
My number 4 is Joe Burrow.
Interesting.
Again, I love Joe Burrow, but I love the other 3 more, and I think they're very, very close. And again, it's very, very tough because of how good Burrow was last year. I'm thinking, could I put him here? Could I put him here? Again, he was brilliant, and the Bengals deserve to be in the playoffs with the way they played. It's just a shame their defense was terrible. Nearly 5,000 yards last year, career high 43 touchdowns, a career low turnover worthy play percentage as well. His best year in terms of completion percentage, unbelievable season, right? Pretty impressive with his legs as well. Burrow was really good at extending plays with his legs, which is not what you think Joe Burrow has. It was his best points added tally since 2021, obviously the year where he reached the Super Bowl. Led the league in yards and touchdown passes. He was PFF's highest graded passer and a second overall quarterback as well behind Lamar Jackson. 38 big time throws, most of any quarterback. probably about 25 of those were towards Jamar Chase, but again, it's just the way it is. But yeah, his accuracy is second to none. I think he's probably the most accurate quarterback in the league. He always seems to hit Chase exactly when he's needed, and there are very few quarterbacks that are more intelligent than Burrow as well. He's very Tom Brady in that aspect. It's a shame he's at 4, but for me, the other 3 obviously are all MVPs, and he's very close to them. But I just feel like the other 3 have the added element that they can run around when Burrow doesn't. But as a quarterback, I feel like Joe Burrow is unbelievable. Yeah, I love him.
I want to go on to number 3 now. I want to get that out of the way so we can then try and both have our top 2 ready. Who's
nice.
3 for you?
My number 3 is Josh Allen. Obviously, reigning MVP. Tough one because obviously he was good last year, but don't get me wrong. But for me, like Lamar deserved the MVP. Honestly, he was robbed of a chance to be back-to-back MVP in my opinion, because he was better than the last MVP he won literally the year before. Like for example, Lamar was the first team All Pro quarterback. Everyone thought Lamar would win MVP, and then on the night Josh Allen won MVP. That's pretty much the way it went. Lamar had better numbers, but the moments when you MVP and the moments that Allen had at the end of the season were brilliant. Obviously, the Chiefs win, the Lions win, and obviously, and he was also excellent in that shootout loss to the Rams as well. He was brilliant. It's just the Rams had the ball last. He was so smart with the football this year. His best year in terms of that, just a 6 picks, which surprised me. Only 5 fumbles, career low totals with both, and it was also again his best career turnover play percentage as well. He had just 15. Before this year, he had never been below 20, so it was a very, very good year for Allen in that aspect. Again, it's probably the hardest quarterback to face in the league as well, I think, especially in the red zone. But as a passer, which is the way I see, I'd just prefer the 2 remaining quarterbacks on this list as a passer. But Allen's so hard. As a Dolphins fan, he is so hard to play against, and but for me personally, I just prefer the other 2 quarterbacks more.
Interesting. Well, I've also got Allen number 3 because I feel like, well, I'll get on to my reasoning in a minute why I've got the quarterbacks where they are. But number 4 for me, this might be a bit of a hot take. Lamar Jackson I've got 4th, which is
gonna... Whoa, no. He was hands down the best quarterback the last 2 years, and you're putting him 4th. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, this probably gives away number 1 for me, but I'm going by out the 4 remaining. Who would I trust more to win me a big game in a big moment? And Lamar Jackson has been amazing in the regular season, but in the postseason, he has yet to do it. And I last year I picked to win it, and I do think he will eventually end this playoff thing he's got. And I know
they should have beaten the Bills this year. He played well, and again he played well. The game was crazy.
Yeah,
they should have actually won that game. But no, I agree with you. He's not had the moment, especially as he's won MVP twice and not had that. I do agree with you, but it should have been this year, and I think it probably will be. This year coming, I'd imagine just where the Ravens are at compared to other teams.
Yeah, and that game, I think the fact that everyone talks about the Mark Andrews, I think, to be honest, is I forgot about how good Lamar Jackson was in that game. But yeah, I think for me, still, as good as he has been in the regular season, I just think that right now he's yet to do it for me. And Josh Allen, I think the same thing with him. But I think, I look at most of the Bills' playoff losses, I don't really think it's been down to him who've lost the games. I think it's been down to coaching and defense. So I think that's the reason why. Now I think as well, I'm trying to think about picking his quarterbacks in a blank team rather than playing for the teams they did, because I guarantee you, if they, top 2 is obvious now. One of them is Burrow. If you put Burrow in a Ravens team or you put him in a Bills team, I think you see Burrow, you avoid injury a lot more, get sacked a lot less. I think you put Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen in these Bengal situations, try and ask them to do the same thing Burrow has done. Probably the same outcome as Burrow's had with Bengals. So I think I'm trying to go by as well if they were playing for the same sort of team, if I was pitching them in a big moment. And I think, we'll get on to where I've got Burrow in a minute, but I think for Burrow, he showed me more in big moments than I've seen in terms of big moments in big important games. I've seen Burrow do it a lot, particularly in that 2021 season. I think about last year, how many quarterbacks can have, miss out the playoffs and be an MVP candidate. Not many quarterbacks have done that, or players in general. So for me, Burrow still for me is amazing. He's in my top 2 for a reason. And I think that if it wasn't for his O-line, he would be, I think he'd have won a Super Bowl by now. I really do. It's hard. Literally, I said before, literally all 4 quarterbacks, I could have Lamar Jackson number 1. I could have Burrow, Mahomes, Allen, all number 1. Generally, there's a
That's what I was going to say.
Quarterbacks, but it's part of it's literally I think literally the gap between 4 and 1. I think it's so tight. It's literally like I look at I genuinely think. I think literally the gap. It's tough. It's tough. The gap is just so small. Literally, all 4 of them have a massive stake to claim, but only one gets.
You can't argue anyone. You can't argue against anyone because you can see reasonably why they're 1, 2, 3, 4 for anyone's order because of how good they are. Yeah.
But someone has to be number 1. Someone has to be on number 1. Now I'm going to do my first. I probably have given it away with my reasoning. I've got Mahomes number 1. I still think, all the problems he had last year, he still made the Super Bowl, and he's had his. I think the way we've seen how good his arm is, but you just seem to have. You seem to see less and less of this deep ball by him. I do think the gap between 1 and 2 is getting less and less. I think another year like this, and so they weren't to make the Super Bowl. I could see Mahomes being 2nd or 3rd. I think right now no one can come close. He's won. He had been 7 straight AFC Championship games. Made 3 of the last 4 Super Bowls, 6 of the last 7, or something like that. It's a crazy number, and I think it is like Brady really, because Brady would often not do as much apart from a few seasons. He wouldn't do as much in the regular season, but come the postseason, Mahomes is gonna, and same as Brady, they're gonna do the business. I think if I'm general manager or owner of a team, and I want someone, if you want Mahomes, and I'd want Burrow over Allen and Jackson. I think Allen and Jackson sell more tickets, but I think Burrow and Mahomes would win you more playoff games. And that's why I've got them in the top 2 for that reason alone. If Allen and Jackson win playoff games, they're probably going above Burrow. They're probably going maybe even number 1. But right now, until they win big moments, until they win AFC Championship games and just win and beat the Chiefs as well, any of these teams, I can't put them above Mahomes.
If they were in the NFC, how many Super Bowls would they have? That's it's one of those things.
Different story. Yeah. I think Lamar Jackson would generally have, and Allen would have at least a Super Bowl appearance each, maybe even 2. I think
they probably would have. Honestly, they maybe not won them because the Chiefs have been in most of those Super Bowls, but again, Super Bowl appearance, absolutely, yeah.
So Sam, you've got Patrick Mahomes and you've got Lamar Jackson. Who is number 1 in your 2025 quarterback ranking from 32 to 1?
Right, for me, Patrick Mahomes is the best to ever do it. He's certainly the most talented quarterback I've ever seen. But for me, Lamar Jackson right now is the best quarterback as it stands right now. The way he has been the last 2 years is he's been by far the best quarterback the last 2 years. For someone who was asked to play receiver and running back coming out of college, he had the highest points added of EPA of any quarterback last year as a passer. As a passer, it was plus 170.16 points. Insane. That's 15 more than any other quarterback, right? And I whopping 130 points more than when he won MVP the previous year. In the regular season, he had 41 touchdowns in the air, a further 4 on the ground. He had led all non-running backs of 915 rushing yards. He was tied with Burrow for the PFF's highest graded passer, both at 94.0. That is PFF's highest ever grade since Aaron Rodgers in 2020. He was also the first player in NFL history to average 8.5 yards per passer and 6 yards per carry in the same season. It's just crazy. The first person to do that in the same season. And he came so close to breaking the single season passer rating record last year as well. He became the first player to have 5 games with a passer rating over 140 in the same season. And only Aaron Rodgers in 2011 and 2020 and Peyton Manning in 2004 had better seasons in terms of passer rating than Lamar last year. He was so close to breaking that record. these are 2 seasons for the ages, in my opinion. He's so different to anything they've really had in the NFL as a quarterback as well. And again, like numerically, his numbers are just off the charts the last 2 years. And as a stats person, I just can't ignore that. So for once, I'm picking against Patrick Mahomes, which was so wrong saying it. It really does. But no, Lamar the last 2 years has been brilliant.
Yeah, I can't argue that. And apologies to those viewers on YouTube that while my camera went off, basically I forgot my Mac charger and I was on 2% battery. So
Nice.
that's why I went off, but I could hear everything you were saying and I completely agree. I mean, Lamar Jackson had one of the best throws I've ever seen last year. That one against the Bengals, it was when the London games were on, where he got tackled, he scrambled to his right and threw across his body and found, I want to say it was his Zay Flowers in the end zone. It was unbelievable. And then Lamar Jackson has got better every year. I think no one probably deserves a Super Bowl more than him out of the quarterbacks who haven't won one yet. I think he is so destined towards winning a Super Bowl. And
I love the fact that everyone who is eating their words, everyone who said anything bad about him, I just love, and that's part that I just love. I did an essay on Lamar and how he was treated by the media coming out of college. I did an essay on it, and I got first in it just because I did all the numbers and stuff to back it up. But no, it's just crazy how he was talked about beforehand, and now looking at him, and again, it's just when he was, in terms of EPA, the best passer of the football. Yeah, he added 170 points as a passer. Lamar Jackson did. It's one of those things where it's just no one people underestimated how good of a passer he was, especially intermediate range, and that's where he excels. And for me, he's brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, it's a shame that that's the one thing hanging over him now is that playoff thing. I think for me personally, he is someone that I think should be a guy that everyone should watch, and certainly be a guy that should be used to get people into the NFL. I think his style of play is fantastic. But there we are. That is our 32-1 done. We have done it for quite a long time, so probably going to do it in a 2-part special. So yeah, we'll probably do an hour, maybe get to maybe the top 15, and then we'll do 15-1 or maybe 10-1, depending how long the first 15 are. We'll do them in a second part. So you may get this now in 2 parts instead of 1 in back-to-back days. Quickly to run through our ranking from 32-1. So my 32-1, going from 32-1 was Shaw, Ward, McCarthy, Pickett, Field, Jones, Penix Jr., Wilson, Russell Wilson, Bryce Young, Caleb Williams, Aaron Rodgers, Drake May, Trevor Lawrence, Geno Smith, Sam Darnold, Kyler Murray, Bo Nix, Tua Tagovailoa, Dak Prescott, Brock Purdy, Jordan Love, Baker Mayfield, Jared Goff, Jaden Daniels, CJ Stroud, Justin Herbert, Matthew Stafford, Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, and then number 1 is Patrick Mahomes. Whereas for Sam, his 32-1 was Spencer Rattler, Joe Flacco, Russell Wilson, Anthony Richardson, Justin Fields, JJ McCarthy, Cam Ward, Michael Penix Jr., Bo Nix, Geno Smith, Sam Darnold, Drake May, Caleb Williams, Trevor Lawrence, Aaron Rodgers, Dak Prescott, Bryce Young, Kyler Murray, Jordan Love, and Brock Purdy, Tua Tagovailoa, CJ Stroud, Baker Mayfield, Jared Goff, Jalen Hurts, Matt Stafford, Justin Herbert, Jaden Daniels, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, and Lamar Jackson. Now, before we do end this episode, I alluded to it early on in the show. I'm going to head back to our first ever edition of this episode back in 2022, where we ranked all of our quarterbacks from 132-1, like we have in today's episode. Now, my number 1 was Patrick Mahomes. It's been every year, if I'm right in saying this. And you had Allen number 2, Mahomes 3. But can you guess who you had first and fourth in 2022?
2022.
Yeah.
Well, who is my third? Sorry, did you say?
Your first and your fourth.
So, but who are my second and third?
Oh, Josh Allen second and Mahomes third.
I'm Mahomes third, did I?
Yeah, you did.
Well, I presume it's Aaron Rodgers and Joe Burrow.
Burrow was 6th, Brady 5th, Mahomes, Rodgers was number 1. Russell Wilson was your 4th.
There you go. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, there you go. It's like, it's so sad seeing seeing that.
Looking further back, I mean, there's some names here that have been well forgotten about. I mean, Davis Mills was in our list. Drew Lock, Zach Wilson. I had Sam Darnold bottom of my list, and you had Darnold 31st. Trey Lance was on your list. I don't know where he's on mine. I think I got Garoppolo. 18th. Mac Jones 19th.
Mac Jones 19th.
Jalen Hurts, I got here 21st. Carson Wentz, 23rd. Must have been his Commanders or Colts era.
I probably had Carson Wentz quite high.
Matt Ryan was in this list at 14th. Jameis Winston 15th. Looking at yours, I mean, similar sort of thing. You've got Justin Fields 28th, same as me actually. Apparently we must have done it 2021 because I've got here he's up by 13 in brackets. So I must have just deleted that article. Must have been going for longer than I thought. You had Deshaun Watson number 11th. I had him 8th. This is obviously before.
Wow.
I think this was post the Browns trade, but I think it was before we played a game. So I think.
Would have been.
I'm right in saying this. But then also my thing says I got Watson in 8th and minus 24. So maybe I don't know what's going on with these numbers.
I think the next year you had him last.
Oh, maybe
the next year you would have,
Yeah, but Derek Carr was 12th on yours. Lamar Jackson was 9th. And Tannehill 16th. So yeah, some names there we've forgotten about. And yeah, they'll probably be saying the same thing in 5 years' time where Cam Ward is working in a car dealership. No, he won't. He's actually, I think he's going to be a good quarterback.
Yeah.
But there we are. That is the end of our episode, which will now be a 2-part episode. We will put it out on both on the same day, due to the on this day segment. But we will do one in the morning and one in the evening, so you guys can fully look at our lists, and it's not too long of an episode for you. We'll try and split it into 2 hour-ish long episodes, and we'll go from there. But in the meantime, first of all, thank you, Sam, for coming on.
Mate, I've loved it. I mean, I've spoken for a bit too long. It's I'm blaming the heat. My fan's broken, so I have no fans.
Oh,
so
no.
I've been a bit flustered. So, like, when we were talking about Bo Nix, for some reason, I heard one thing and then I got Bryce Young back in my head again. And I was like, what the hell am I? So I got a bit flustered with the heat. But after that, I recovered. But I just love talking about football and I love the stats as well. So I'll just go, if I've got a stat, I'll go heavily on that. I hope your listeners love the Extra Long podcast. It seems to be the same with me. So,
honestly,
they're probably used to it by now.
But it's never a problem, honestly. It's always good to have you on. Just looking forward to getting you on. We will exchange details as to when you want to come on, but we will have you on for the Dolphins season preview. So we'll get that arranged. We have got most of our season preview episodes planned.
That'll be an interesting one, the Dolphins one.
Yeah.
I don't know how I'm feeling, if I'm being honest.
A lot different to a year ago. And we will get on something more in the episode, which will be some point over July and August. But in the meantime, this has been the Across the Pod NFL podcast. I've been, as ever, your host, Andy Davis, with my guest today, Sam Moores. And we'll see you guys next time with our top 10 worst Super Bowl head coaches who've won them with Ben Isaac.